And do you think we're likely to see more kind of groups of contractors getting together to, in this kind of environment, in that scenario, to form small consultancies where they're collaborating with each other, or do you think that's a whole different complex discussion?
Not specifically to get around IR35, because interestingly, so there's been a lot of noise in the last couple of weeks, and I think it was something that was still in the draft legislation going back in March or April last 2018 even, but there's been a lot of noise in the last few weeks about the fact that HMRC have changed the definition of an intermediary, and for legal purposes that's what we would know as a PSC, falling within the scope of the IR35 rules and the off-payroll rules. And they've made it so wide that it would apply to anyone, including, someone who's
umbrella
just a POA,
companies,
an agency, umbrella companies, everyone. That's caused a big stir. HMRC, for once, have had to stand up and say, we were wrong, we didn't intend this, even though it has huge advantages for them. But the wording was specifically trying to address that whole approach of a handful of contractors just getting together in a partnership and an LP or a company with equal shares, just as a way to get out of it. So they were targeting those individuals. So doing that alone will not just give them a free pass to be outside of the rules.
No, absolutely.
But you will see. Yeah, it's interesting. I'll give an example. So I used to, obviously, one of the businesses we did the MBO was a big supply teaching agency. And while we were running that business, I had a good friend of mine. My wife's a teacher. We know lots and lots of teachers. But a friend contacted me, and he was talking about he wanted to set up a supply teaching agency where he was the only client because he wanted to act like a business and be able to make clearer decisions around how he engaged with the schools that he works in. But it's that that mindset, and then he started talking. Well, I know 4 or 5 other people that would join, and we could become. So actually, it's a good concept. So yeah, that thinking, yes, I can see that taking off. That whole idea of, if we band together, we can work on more projects, we can deliver more for multiple customers at the same time.
Yeah, I don't really look at it in terms of, specifically as an IR35 avoidance, but just as a practical step that some people who have been contractors for many years will kind of, just say what's the most effective way for me to take my skills and competencies to market? Is that on my own? Is it via continuing on the contract route? Is it for me to go perm? Is it, work via an umbrella? Or is it actually to collaborate with other people who are working in specific areas? We've all got very specialist skills that map together quite nicely. We could see the formation of more businesses. It's a changing business landscape. There's a changing regulatory landscape, obviously, which impacts this, but there is a changing business landscape as well. I just think it's a really interesting time. Talking about that change in the kind of business landscape, it's obviously a huge time of change for recruitment organisations, and I think there are various factors that are affecting recruitment agencies outside of IR35. But with with this legislation coming in next year, what do you kind of see as the opportunities or the areas where recruitment companies are looking to offer additional value to their customers or take on different types of customers, kind of in response to what's going on with IR35 and what that'll mean?
I mean, if I think about the people that I work with, certainly the ones that have approached me, the conversation always starts with a channel and a route to market. And to the extent, I was a terrible sales director in the time that I was a sales director because I don't like picking up the phone. I hate talking on the phone. Terrible sales, which is why I was a bad recruiter as well. But they're always just looking at channel. How do I get in front of to talk to a new customer? And that provided me with an opportunity to talk about, well, there's actually different models of delivery which would open up, and again, this is public sector thing, but open up different frameworks and approaches, and you can look at consultancy. But I'm a big fan of the product sale, having a product and defining that product, and then what that means to your segregated customer list. I did a marketing qualification, never finished the final paper, but that's the one thing I always say to people: define your proposition first. And it comes back actually to what you were talking about contractors potentially bundling together, because they'll be able to create a product that they'll be able to then sell more repetitively, quicker, easily to more customers. And so absolutely, that's how they're going to get that scale. From a recruitment agency point of view, I think absolutely the ones that will succeed in taking advantage of the changes that are coming along are those that play to their strengths, in order to be able to create a proposition to take to market, and as a service, as an outcome, and find the right customers for that service. So a good example, you've got some very strong agencies out there that just do technology and change management. Now, change management is huge everywhere at the moment, in the world we live in at the moment. And a lot of them are providing sort of heavy hitting program directors, IT change managers into, particularly into the public sector in the market, COVID and stuff like that. And I'm saying to them, well, why? A lot of organisations are doing the same thing. It's a repeated ask that you're getting. If you don't just look at it as a person coming in on the demand end, if you look at it you start to categorise and really capture what it is your clients are asking your workers, your contractors, the people they're asking you to find. If you really start to capture what it is they're asking you to do, then you can start identifying the common trends, and you can create a proposition around that, and sell that service and become an expert in that space. Because I do often find, I've worked with enough large consultancies, professional consultancies, and the big five, the accountants and what have you, to know that there's a huge amount of, when you're scoping a project, huge difference, worlds apart, but delivering and getting the right people to actually get the outcome, there's a very narrow margin of difference between a good agency and a good consultant. So there's absolutely an opportunity there, I think, for those agencies to start thinking about, what do we do well? Because we've been recruiting in these markets, what is it we've actually become, almost through osmosis, experts in, and the people we're connected with are also experts in, and packaging up those solutions and those offers to take to market. And I think, and again, they get scared about the same things that the end clients are getting scared of, because it's such a shift in mindset for them. They say to me, well, but I wouldn't know how to do that. How do I say to the client that I'm going to deliver that checkpoint by that day? And it's kind of like, well, you draw on the expertise. You draw on you don't think of your talent pool as interim, as people. Think of them as a network of businesses that all provide a little piece of the puzzle and the skills to meet that objective. If you treated them like a network of fellow business consultants, and one of your clients who's worked with you for years comes to you and says, I've got a really difficult problem I need to address, why aren't you picking up the phone to the 20 experts that you've got on your books? How would you address this? Okay. Would you be interested in coming together to define a product? And that's the...
It's ultimately about who's best set up to solve the problem, isn't it?